Today's video is about food, burgers, and discrimination, and ketchup. We're going to talk, I guess, a lot about ketchup today. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and boy, it's been a while since we've done like an on-screen video face-to-face, but I wanted to do this special video, which is technically a restaurant review slash rant slash appeasement to the owner of a restaurant that I had a very miserable experience with. And yeah, I know it's very different from what's normally on this channel, even though when you look at me, I mean, it looks like I should be making food videos, but I typically don't. But this was a very specific situation, and I not only want to bring light to it, rant a little bit about it, I'd kind of like you to chime in and kind of find out exactly how you would have handled this. And I am hoping that somehow this video gets to the owner of the restaurant I went to, because I have a huge appeal to make on what I consider to be a very stupid and, dare I say it, discriminatory policy. So a bunch of friends and I had just seen F1 at a sneak preview in IMAX, and when afterwards, of course, everyone wants to go to lunch. And someone, probably innocently, in the party suggested Father's Office. They said, this is this burger joint, it's really good. They have this strange policy about not having ketchup, but if you can get by that, then you will really like the food. And so, of course, we go, sure, why not? I mean, I'd never heard of the place personally. It turns out it's more of a gastropub than it is an actual restaurant, but whatever. I mean, I'm willing to give most things a try. So we get there, and I look at the menu, and of course I usually get a burger, but they're putting things on there that I usually don't like onion, blue cheese, and things like that. So I start asking, hey, can I have the office burger, but I'd like, no onions, and could we swap out the cheese with it? And the guy told me, not particularly nicely, I would like to add, they don't make substitutions at all. Like, everything comes as is. Okay, I've never actually gone to a restaurant that has that policy, but okay, whatever. I stand aside and say, well, let me look at the menu again. If you don't make substitutions, I mean, it's a weird policy to have, but I'm willing to give it a second look. Now, something that you should know is that because of a diabetes diagnosis, which I have largely gotten under control, I'm doing very good with that. I don't even take much medication for it anymore because I am just doing that good with it. But it does limit some of the things I can eat. Not to mention, I have this whole Asperger's thing that one of the weird side effects is that textures for food can be kind of triggering, I guess. Like, they trigger a gag reflex that is very unpleasant, even if the food technically tastes good. It's very, very weird. So I do have some dietary restrictions. So I'm looking through this menu. And by the way, I should note, the burger didn't have dietary restrictions for me. I just didn't like some of the condiments that they put on it. That'll be important later on. And I settle upon a fish sandwich. This one's pretty basic, all things considered. It's got a fish fillet, it's got a slice of cheddar cheese, it's on a bun of some sort, and it's got tartar sauce. This is very basic for the most part. Like, I kind of wonder if this is not a specialty dish by the chef, just something to put there for people who want fish. So this looks pretty good, except the problem is it has tartar sauce, and tartar sauce is one of those weird gag reflex things that I suffer from, whereas I don't technically dislike the taste of tartar sauce, but it creates a weird effect. It's very hard to explain, where it's like, it just makes me want to puke, even though technically the taste is good. I know, it's very, very weird. I'm not concerned about this because, first of all, I'm not going to ask to substitute the sauce. I'm just going to tell them, hey, I have a medical condition that's related to disabilities. I would just like this sandwich without the tartar sauce on it. You don't have to substitute anything. Can you just hold this one sauce condiment? This seems like a very reasonable request. And they refuse. The guy says he will not do it. I tell him again, well, look, I'm not asking for a substitute, and it's not really an altercation if I'm just telling you not to put it on. Can you just put it on the side? Like, you want to just put it on the side just to show that it's going to get thrown away. That's stupid, but can you just put it on the side? And the answer is no. You will take it exactly as we made it. Now, this is where I start telling him, about Americans with Disabilities Act, how, restaurants have a responsibility to make reasonable accommodations when there is a health issue regarding the food. And his response is still no. I asked to talk to a manager at this point, and he refuses to get the manager because the manager will tell me the same thing he says, so it would be pointless to even bring them into the mix. Which at that point, I start raising my voice. I get very upset with this guy, this Kim fellow. And yes, I'm starting to make a scene at this point. Not where I'm ranting, raving, but my voice is raising. I'm getting visibly upset. I am arguing with the guy. There is a line behind me. Upset. Now, eventually, the person next to him asks if there's a problem. I say there is a problem. She identifies herself as the manager, which of course at that point I'm going to say, oh, so the manager is available? The manager is available to step in and help with this situation. Well, the manager does probably the only smart thing she does. She pulls me aside, which, yes, you're supposed to do that, but I think the manager's responsibility is also you de-escalate a situation. You don't escalate it, which is exactly what she did, as she basically reiterated that because of the chef's philosophy, there are absolutely no changes to be made to the food. I probably threatened her with some legal action because, I'm gotten very upset at this point. We're not talking about something that absolutely can't be done unless the food is prepackaged. If the food is prepackaged, that's one thing. I actually ask at some point, is the food prepackaged? It's like, no, we make it fresh and everything like that. It's like, well, why can't you just make it but not put it on? Heck, why can't you just forget to put it on one time? I'm not going to complain about it. But no, she refuses. And even when I suggest that this might be discriminatory in nature, she basically says, well, sue us. We're not changing the sandwich for you. You are going to eat it the way that we make it. Now, all this is going down, and I'm going to say in a side note, I have friends here who are watching this go down. They're seeing that I'm upset. They're seeing that I'm not being treated right on this. They have to be acknowledging at some point that this is a ridiculous policy, and maybe we would do better taking our business elsewhere. Because why would you want to go to a restaurant that's charging, not even a restaurant, it's a gastropub, that's charging what it's charging and then being absolutely rude by refusing this one very simple request that's based on a dietary restriction, not because I don't want your tartar sauce, but because I just can't eat it. And they ultimately did nothing, and in fact, several of them actually blamed me for being the problem in this situation. And I've got some real issues with those people right now, and I don't even know if I can call them friends anymore, to be honest. I mean, I asked them point blank, would you put up with this if they were refusing to serve your son based on the color of his skin? And of course the answer would be no. They would walk away. Heck, they'd probably file a complaint, which it's like, well, that's a form of discrimination. This is a form of discrimination. Why aren't you upset about this one? Now, I did what anyone would do after a situation like this, aside from angrily storming out, having not eaten, having not spent time with my friends, which I drove almost an hour to be with. After I left, I went home and I left a negative Yelp review. Now, look, I'm going to be honest. I only use Yelp to leave negative reviews. I'm not a Yelper. I don't use Yelp as a weapon. In fact, I think I've only posted 3 Yelp reviews in my entire life. So these 3 reviews are a span of like 10 years. I don't do it very often, but I was just very, very upset. So I wrote this very detailed review. And then, of course, once you write the review, you start looking at these other bad reviews. And that's where the world was kind of opened a little bit to Father's Office, because the reviews were consistent for sure. And I will read some of the reviews to show what we're talking about. But I also did something I rarely do for a restaurant. I actually looked up the restaurant in YouTube, and this is what I found.
Guy's not the only guy who can talk about cheeseburgers. I, too, would like to speak about a bacon cheeseburger. Talking about Father's Office in Los Angeles, California. The best burger I've ever had.
The office burger at Father's Office only comes one way.
There's no messing with this burger. There's no hold the pickles, hold the lettuce, no ketchup.
We actually don't even serve ketchup or mustard. Contraband here.
Basically, the chef has said, I've come up with my version of the perfect burger, and that's it. This is the juiciest burger you've ever bitten into.
So yeah, when your thing is on the Food Network being praised as the best burger around, obviously you're going to dig a little deeper. And this is what I discovered about Father's Office. Father's Office was a gastropub that was bought out by Chef Sang Yoon, who is an award-winning chef. In fact, I think he won a Michelin star for this restaurant. And apparently, the Office Burger was called by Esquire magazine as probably the greatest burger in the world. Very, very high praise, and I love my burgers, so that definitely caught my attention. Aside from being famous for this burger, the place is also famous for two other policies. They don't serve ketchup, they do not make changes, and they do not make substitutions. The burger and whatever else you order comes as it is. They will not make a change at all. That is their policy. It's on their website, and they even joke about it where on the website try to explain that, look, they just want you to make sure that you eat the food the way it's intended to be eaten with the best ingredients possible, and if you don't like the policy, you can tell us to FO, which, you know, look, that's pretty much exactly what I'm going to tell them to a certain extent, but before we do that, I figured I would give Sang Yoon's Office Burger his day in court. I would go back, I would buy the burger as is, I wouldn't ask for changes, I wouldn't expect any changes, and I was going to eat it to see if his creation as is was truly as great. And keep in mind, there's at least 3 toppings on here I do not like. So I went there, got the burger, and film my reaction. This is what it was.
All right, so here's the meal. Here's the Office Burger, and this is apparently a garlic ale, and I guess this is for the fries. I'm gonna just try this real quick because this place famously doesn't sell ketchup. I'm not gonna lie, the ale is good. I also have a non-alcoholic rosé. All right, Chef Soon, here we go. There are things on here that I do not like. Could you at least have held the greens? I don't know. Oh well, let us see how this tastes. Wow, I'm kind of disappointed. I was really hoping I could say I didn't like this, but it's actually very good. It is very good, so I'm gonna finish this burger off camera. We're gonna get back to the main video right now, but it's pretty good, not gonna lie.
So yeah, that was definitely interesting. Like, I walked away loving that burger. Now, one thing I didn't get on camera, but I'll tell you about it right now, is that I did bring some, ketchup packets with me because I knew that they did not have ketchup, and I did want ketchup on the fries. Before I could put the ketchup on the fries, the staff saw that I had the ketchup packs and told me basically that I could either put those away or I could get thrown out of the restaurant. So rather than pick a fight, I asked for a to-go box, and then I put the ketchup on the fries in the car because, look, that garlic sauce was good, but ketchup on fries is still just so much better, even if it's McDonald's ketchup. Overall, I would say, yes, the Office Burger was one of the best burgers I ever had. There's a reason he's making it the way he's making it. I think this is the only burger with onions in it that I like. So he gets a huge, huge tip of the cap, as you will, for making a burger with onions that I would eat. Ultimately, though, it does not matter because the product that he's selling is not the issue. It is the policy that is the issue. Now let's take a moment to talk about his, no modifications policy and what restaurants are and aren't liable for, because as everyone knows, if you have a disability or a food allergy or something, it is the law the restaurant has to make a reasonable accommodation for you. But the key word there is reasonable. The accommodation has to be something that they are able to do. So for example, if you go to an ice cream shop and you say, I want a dairy-free ice cream, but they don't have dairy-free ice cream, they just have dairy-filled ice cream, you can't sue them for not serving you dairy-free ice cream because they don't have it. Likewise, if you go to a chicken place and you don't want to eat chicken, you want noodles or fish or something like that, and let's just say there's a disability that says that that's all you can eat, okay? I don't think that's actually true, but let's say it is, and you ask for that. Well, if they don't have that food, they can say no because they can't accommodate you. That's not a reasonable accommodation for them. In Father's office, having them hold the tartar sauce is a very reasonable accommodation. And since there is a dietary restriction involved, it's something that they do need to take into consideration. And ADA is very clear about this. So the fact that they are not only not doing it and openly flaunting that they're not doing it might put them in a very sticky legal situation should someone actually bother to sue them. Now, as much as I threatened them at the time to sue them, I didn't because it's a lot of work and because I kind of like to appeal to people's humanity first, hence one of the reasons I'm making this video. I bet you they've just never been brought to court over this, even though it would be really easy to do so. And I sense once they tick the wrong person off and that person does bring them to court and they have to settle at that point because they have no defense for not holding a condiment, then I think you're going to see that policy change quite a bit. But we'll get to the policy potentially changing a little later on. And this policy is also not great for business in terms of its reputation. I mean, they kind of consider it like a badge of honor that they will not change the food. And from a reputational standpoint, this policy is also not very good. This is not the badge of honor that they think it is. Now, Father's office and Sang Yoon did win a Michelin star for this restaurant, and after having had the burger, I can totally understand why they won that Michelin star. It makes perfect sense. But here's the thing. Restaurants, again, it's not a restaurant, it's a gastropub, but places that you eat that win Michelin stars typically have a much higher reputation than usual, and Father's office reputation is shockingly bad. It averages a 3.7 on Yelp, which, again, for a Michelin star winning restaurant, that is abhorrently low. And when you read the reviews, when you filter out with the 1 and the 2-star reviews, the strange thing is none of these bad reviews are about the food. The food is praised. It's because of this policy and the way that they treat people with disabilities. I've got several of these reviews here, and we're going to read some of these. You can jump to this timestamp if you want to skip the reviews and get to kind of the overall wrap-up point that I'm trying to make, and that's the point where Sang Yoon, if you are watching this, I would like you to watch the most. But since you are the owner, you might want to hear some of these complaints at the very least. So, okay. We tried to have lunch here with our sleeping 4-month-old daughter in her stroller. It was 1 p.m. and we just wanted to sit outside and order burgers. There was a lot of empty seating, but they refused to seat us because of our child, saying it was 21 plus even to sit outside and order food. When I recounted this incident in shock to a friend, they suggested it might be legal compliance, but we walked 20 feet over to Lusting, which also serves alcohol, and they served us outside immediately, and we had a quiet, incident-free lunch. So obviously, this is the policy of a place that is so up its own butt, it won't allow substitutions. I can understand limitations on children for the sake of ambience indoors, but outdoors, with hardly anyone there, it felt discriminatory, like they'd rather not have any business at all than take our dirty kid money. I'll never, ever return. And yeah, that's kind of a more tricky one. I don't know the legalities if that's an illegal thing. This place will check your ID regardless of what you look like at the door, so I'm just going to throw that out there. Don't get me wrong, place was good, but I really wanted a burger and asked if I could just have it without cheese. Apparently, they couldn't do that. It was just omitting one ingredient. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I just can't have cheese. But for some reason, it wasn't possible. I don't understand. Is it pre-made with cheese or something? What reason could they have to not remove one thing that many are intolerant to? I wasn't trying to custom change the entire thing and never had an issue not getting cheese on a burger before. Wish they changed this questionable policy. For the record, I love cheese, but cheese is one of the most common ingredients that people can't have, so they absolutely should allow to not have cheese on the burger. I had the most horrible experience here yesterday. I came for lunch with my handicapped cousin and he forgot his ID in the car but had it on his phone. The host was so cold and rude to him and asked him to walk back to his car and get it. She was rude and cold with no compassion for his medical condition. I would never go back here and neither should anyone. Their burgers aren't that good either. Well, actually, their burgers are excellent, but I can understand why that would annoy you. Time after time, I have gone to Father's office and have been met with the most bizarre menu restrictions, but after this last visit, I might be done. My wife was twice denied a cherry for her old-fashioned when we stopped in recently and were told that they were only allowed to go into their Manhattans. I understand wanting to have a hot tea mixology bartending atmosphere, but this was a single cherry in an old-fashioned. When I asked for one in her second drink, I was literally told there was no wiggle room on this issue. After a hard day and wanting to unwind, this is really the last thing a customer wants to hear. I've been coming here since 2010, but I might be tapping out finally. This is ridiculous. Okay, seriously, is it worth losing a couple of customers who've been going there for a long time over a cherry? Horrible! I'm allergic to onions and they won't make the burger without onions. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second here because I do have to mention that if you don't want the onions on the burger, it's cooked inside this bacon marmalade type sauce. So if you wanted to remove the onions, you would also have to remove all of that. So I'm going to give them that defense. But that being said, if they're allergic to onions, you should tell them that you will take the onions off. That's kind of the overall theme in this. Let's continue. And they won't make the burger without onions. I think that's the stupidest thing ever. The guy taking our order wouldn't even compromise and brushed me off saying you gotta order something else. Dear owner, if you're reading this, your policy is ridiculous. I agree. Beyond obnoxious. No ketchup? How do you serve burgers and fries and ban ketchup from your restaurant? My theory, the owner hates ketchup and won't allow anyone else to enjoy it. Ridiculous, but I can't think of a better explanation. On top of that, you can't omit things from your order. Don't like sauce on your burger or sandwich? Too bad. So you can't have ketchup with your fries and you also can't order a burger without onions? With so many eating options in LA, I'd rather give my money to someone who doesn't look down their pretentious nose at their customers. No table service either. Scan a QR code for a menu and then join the chaos of ordering at the bar. It's pandemonium. I was waiting in line to order, and when it was my turn, the bartender went and took the order from some guy who poked his head around the corner and ignored me and everyone behind me. Walked out, and so did the person behind me. Don't give places like this your money. Overpriced, boring food, and insanely marked up beer prices. I don't drink beer, so I wouldn't know about that one. Avoid this place at all costs. If I could give 0 stars, I would. Just a not-so-short breakdown of why this restaurant is one of the worst places I've been to in quite some time. 1. My girlfriend is lactose intolerant. She wanted to order the burger but requested they remove the cheese because she cannot eat it. The bartender was very short with us and told us there was no substitutions. What kind of restaurant does not at least try and cater to someone that is lactose intolerant? Completely ridiculous. When the server brought out the french fries, my girlfriend asked for ketchup. After asking for ketchup, the server said we don't offer that here and then rudely offered to take the dish back. Why would a server ask to take the dish back after she simply asked for ketchup? Oh, it's the end of the world because someone asked for ketchup. What the heck is wrong with these people? 3. I could have excused all the attitude if the food was good. The food was absolutely terrible. We could hardly eat any of it. Frankly, it started to make me feel sick, so we decided to leave without eating most of it. 4. As we were leaving, the hostess gave us the dirtiest look because we left all the food on the table. Maybe, just maybe, it might be appropriate to ask why we left so much food. You know, like a normal hostess would do. All in all, this place is horrible. For the life of me, I cannot understand the good reviews it has received. Seems like people love places that treat their customers terrible and serve terrible. Service is lackluster. Beer selection is okay. Getting that beer into your mouth is another matter. It takes forever. Chef Sang needs to pull his arrogant panties out of the bunch and just accept that some people love ketchup. That said, his burger is freaking awesome. So are the fries. Look, if this dude would just ditch the ego, I'd be more inclined to go to his restaurants. But seriously, man, ketchup? You're better than denying diners what they want. Oh, all right. So I wasn't going to talk about this, to be frank. It's ketchup, and it doesn't have much to do with my overall problem. But let's tackle the ketchup issue for a second. Ketchup and burgers are just a staple. Now, even if you don't want to put your ketchup on the burger, many people like ketchup with fries. Is it true that Chef Sang simply does not like ketchup? Well, I did some investigating, and this is what I found.
Yeah, I'm really not into the ketchup thing.
Okay, so that's the end of the story, right? Not quite.
Ketchup has its place. I don't hate ketchup, contrary to popular belief. So, don't write me any nasty letters. But there's so many other things. And really, ketchup is just something that's sweet and sour. And you can actually make your own kind of ketchup. It's really easy to do. You can use almost any kind of fruit. Originally, ketchup wasn't even made with tomatoes. So you can literally use anything that's sweet. A little vinegar, cook it down. I always say, go to the farmer's market, buy some fruit, get some vinegar in a big pot, and free half hour, you can have your own ketchup, any flavor you like. No artificial colors, sweeteners, make it sweet or tart as you like. And it goes with a lot of different kinds of food. My favorite, peach ketchup. Give it a try.
So the general consensus is that Chef Sang does not like ketchup, but he admits that it has its place, and there actually are some ketchups he would be okay with. And in fact, he wrote this huge article about ketchup and how he was doing a lot of experimentation with ketchup and all the fun things you can do with ketchup. Now, in that article, he mentions that he just felt that the Office Burger did not need ketchup, and he didn't understand why that was so controversial. Dude, as we've established, that's not really the main issue people have with your burger. But that being said, he is open to playing with ketchup. There are some ketchups he likes. And in fact, since he's had this dumb ketchup policy for so long, he should really turn this into a win at this point. He should get into the kitchen because he's very talented. He should make a ketchup that he is absolutely satisfied with, and he should serve it at Father's office with the fries. You can even make it a big thing. Father's office finally finds a ketchup it can stand behind. Turn this into a win. Stop alienating people with this dumb ketchup policy. People like ketchup with their fries. Let's continue. There's nothing wrong with no substitutions. I understand that chefs want to preserve the integrity of their cuisine. I can even understand the rancor against asking for ketchup, etc. However, the no removals of the items is a step too far. What kind of place wants to gatekeep its food? That doesn't make sense to me. Why prevent people from trying a burger just because they don't like blue cheese or don't want bacon? Isn't removing an item not particularly causing any extra work or grief? I try to think about people who might be religious or allergic. It's kind of harsh to just say, oh, you don't deserve to eat my burger, sorry, not sorry. That's essentially what Father's office is doing. They are saying, we won't accept people who might be allergic to an ingredient like blue cheese, etc. We won't accept people who don't eat pork for religious reasons. I find that pretty discriminatory. I just don't agree with that philosophy. I feel that it's a bit disrespectful and kind of a bad message and way of doing things. Just my 2 cents. The beer was nice, and honestly, the burger was, in my eyes, greasy, but that's just my 2 cents. Yelp reviews should be taken with a grain of salt. One man's treasure is another man's trash. Yes, this review is self-important and whiny, but hey, that's what Yelp is for. And I think that's a good place to end it because I think that's kind of the core of what I'm going on. Look, here's the thing. With all due respect, food is not art. Now, I know some of you are going to really push back, but hear me out. Yes, making great food is an art. Chefs, cook, they slave, they work on their recipes, and they do it to perfection. There's a lot of care that goes into a restaurant. But here's the thing, unless you are giving that food away, your restaurant is not art. It is a business. And here's the thing, especially if you are serving food and beer, you are in the service industry. You're not in the industry where you get to tell people what to do. They are paying you for a product. And while, yes, your unaltered product might be better than whatever substitutions they might come up with, the bottom line is they're paying you, you're not paying them. So if they don't want a condiment on their burger or fish sandwich or whatever, they should have the freedom to not get it because that is a service you are providing. Now, as stated earlier, I actually love the Office Burger, which is amazing because I hate onions. I don't particularly care for blue cheese. And those little green leaves that you put on, I could definitely live without it. And from all the videos that I've seen, he seems like a really nice guy. Like he loves good food. He loves wine. Breaking Bad is one of his favorite shows, apparently. I mean, me and him, yeah, we're good on that. And you know what? There's even this cute little video of him eating his own Office Burger creation years after the fact, and just he's so happy with how it turned out. Talking about how he knew he was not going to change it, so he wanted to make it perfect. We can't discredit this. This guy obviously put effort into this burger, and so I understand the human element of wanting to say, look, I worked really hard on this, and I made it perfect, and I want you to experience it this way. I completely understand that. But here's the bottom line. This no altercation policy, it's a bad policy. I would argue it's an immoral policy once you take into account the fact that you are telling it to people who are religious or allergic or intolerant to ingredients that you could easily just leave off the thing if they asked, and you won't even consider that. Now, he had 3 locations for Father's Office, but one of them closed actually right before I could film this video. And when he was asked for comment, he said, well, there was no particular reason it closed. It just kind of didn't work out. Personally, I think this policy was a huge reason why it closed. Because here's the thing, you know what? It doesn't matter how good your product is. If you're bringing people in, charging them a lot of money, and then basically giving them attitude because they don't want a condiment on a certain item and you won't make it the way they want it to, you know what? There's a bunch of other places nearby that will make it the way they want, that will take their allergies into consideration. And so why would they go to you to get their food when there are other places to get the food they want the way they want to make it? By the way, kind of forgot to mention that when I got the burger, they did ask how I wanted it cooked. So apparently there is at least that much wiggle room for you to decide how you would like the burger cooked. I just don't know why there's no wiggle room to remove things that you might be allergic to. Changing the policy is not weakness. It is not caving to demands. It would be character growth. I hope you are listening to this video. You are listening to these reviews that I printed out. And you are reflecting and saying, you know what? I see that my policy has hurt people. It has hurt my business. Let's change it. And you know what? You don't even have to change it completely. Let's compromise a little bit. Why don't you say, okay, look, here's the thing. I will not substitute anything on the burger, on the fish sandwich. You know, we're not going to swap out the blue cheese for the cheddar cheese, for example. Won't do it. But if you are allergic, I will, if you want us to take something off, we will do that for you because it's the right thing to do. It is the right thing to take something off when someone says they can't eat it. And it is welcoming when you do that. It's not you caving to their demands. It's not you giving the peasants their due. It's you are serving them. This is the way you would like the burger to be made. You're not going to substitute anything. But if you have an allergic reaction to something or you just can't eat it, we will happily remove that condiment because it's not your fault that you can't eat that condiment. In fact, Sang has a couple of other restaurants, and I looked at these restaurants. Now, one of them, which you can see right here, does ask for no substitutions, but does mention a peanut allergy, that if you have a peanut allergy, you should let them know so they can make accommodations. Well, okay, so at least at one of your restaurants, you seem to acknowledge that allergies can be a problem. There's another restaurant he opened on this very crummy website, which seems broken. It's in the Napa Valley, where they don't necessarily mention any food policy, but I did call the restaurant, and the person on the other line said that they do alter the, like I asked if I ordered this item and I asked to take this off, would they do that? And they said, yeah, we do that. So apparently at this other restaurant, you can actually make modifications and changes. So why wouldn't Sang actually take that policy and put it here with his signature restaurant? His restaurant is known for two things: the quality of the food and the fact that the policy makes him and all of his employees seem like utter jackasses. And personally, Sang, I would prefer you to change this policy with open arms, because you realize you did people with disabilities and health restrictions wrong. I don't want to see you get sued over this. That's the primary reason I didn't sue you. It's not about money. You created a miserable experience for me and my party. But I would like you to understand that there's a problem and change it willingly rather than be forced to change it. But dude, come on. Some people just can't eat cheese. Some people can't eat onions. My wife, she can't eat greens. There's greens in pretty much everything you make, but she has Crohn's disease, so she can't eat it. You know, if she was there and your response was basically, yeah, you're going to have a flare-up because we're just not going to hold the greens, there would have been hell to pay. And to be honest, I am really surprised no one at this restaurant has had their ass kicked because of this attitude. Here's the thing. Father's office, Chef Sang. In the future, I believe that if someone comes in and says, hey, I'd like the Father's office burger, but please hold the cheese because I'm allergic to cheese, the response should not be, we can't alter the burger. The response should be, you're absolutely right, we're going to take the cheese off. Is there anything else you would like us to do to make your food more accommodating for you? That is my opinion, and that's where I'm going to leave it. But I am curious, what do you all think of this situation? Have you eaten at a Father's office? What do you think of this story? How does this sound to you? And hey, if there's any lawyers watching this, if you want to comment on the legality of this below, I would be very interested to know what your take on this policy is and whether or not it's a liability for a restaurant like Father's Office. So that's my review of Father's Office, home of the Discrimination Burger.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters, and I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running, and of course is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to, it is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, you know, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.